listening audience, and welcome to another Toonkind at 12 frames per second. My name is Whirl. I am one of your players for the day. I don't know if I count as DM since there's only two people here. And I am joined today by the amazing and wonderful. Please introduce yourself here.
Heartless, and I will be playing Gil Treble.
I mentioned I love your villain laugh. It's very classy.
Thank you.
Anyway, let's just jump right in with both feet because that's what we do best in this hellscape. So today's game finds Mr. Treble at the back alley market, which is basically a farmer's market, but for those of us of the more villainous persuasion. You can find everything you might need for your heists and shenanigans here, or, or as long as you have the right amount of money. So what brings Gil to back alley market today?
Well, you see, there's a very particular scheme he's wanting to do in the future. But unfortunately, he, doesn't have enough money to do it. So he's here trying to think of a way to bend the one of the sellers to his whims.
Oh, goodness. Alright. That's a valid reason to be in a place like this, although you might be hard-pressed. A lot of the people here look like real tough cookies to crumble. Roll me perception.
Oh, I love rolling perception. That's a -2 modifier.
Holy shit, okay! Gil, you're not even sure what part of the market you're in right now. It's only one street, but somehow you have managed to get lost in a back alley of back alley market.
You know, this has happened before. I'm sure I'll find my way out at some point.
There was a bit of a crowd, and you got a little lost. These things happen when you're short.
Not short. I'm average sized.
You're 4'3", my dude.
I'm 4'6", and that's average size for a toon. Excuse you, voice from the beyond.
Oh, goodness gracious, golly gosh. Alright, so you have had no luck finding anyone who looks suitably bendable, as it were. As you're just kind of walking around trying to find someone, and there's sort of a kerfuffle off to your side, although with a 2, you don't really hear what's going on. And then I have to roll Dex. What is Bonblock's Dex? Shit, I said his name. I wasn't supposed to say his name. Ignore what I just said.
What name? I didn't hear anything. I rolled a 2, remember?
Yeah, good point. You rolled a 2. You heard nothing. I roll a d20. Okay, that's a 10. Alright. That's a 10. So, I'm going to need you to roll me a Dex save.
Should I roll at disadvantage because Gail's not paying attention?
You know what? Sure, I wasn't gonna make you do that, but go ahead.
Okay.
Oh, that's already bad. I don't know how you're gonna beat that. Okay.
I rolled a 3, which is a natural 1. And then I rolled a dirty 20.
Hecking excellent. The game just wants us to have some slapstick. Because you are bumped into and knocked over by, a ragdoll-looking toon who looks simultaneously like he belongs in this sort of place and also very, very confused. And he barrels it into you, not intentionally, mind you, he was pushed, and knocks you over and is just like, oh, good, oh dear, oh, we're so sorry, we didn't mean to do that. Are you alright?
He looks up and kind of just narrows his eyes like, really, you didn't mean to do that? It's gonna roll insight. That's not gonna go well, though.
Well, you don't need to roll high. This guy isn't lying.
I rolled a 5.
You don't need to roll 5. You don't need to roll high. Like, with a 5, you can tell he's not lying. And honestly, because you rolled a 5, you're starting to question why this guy would be in a place like this. This looks like a children's toy. And he's
Well,
sort of...
what you doing then? Running into people, or were you pushed?
Oh,
Lost
yes,
little girl.
yes, we were. It was a bit of an accident. We didn't mean to. You see, misunderstandings do tend to happen in these parts. Here, let me help you out. And let us help you out. My bad. I forget which pronouns I'm supposed to be using for myself. And he stands up and dusts himself off, and he offers you a hand up. I should mention that this guy looks like... Hang on, where's my reference of him? He looks like this. And he offers you a quote-unquote hand up because he doesn't actually have hands. He just has sleeves, mittens.
Interesting.
And he offers you a hand up and says, we really didn't mean to run into you. We were just getting lost, and then we got pushed by the crowd, and well, it was a bit of an accident, and then we fell, and then we ran into you, and we're very sorry. Our name is Marklock. What's yours?
Well, I suppose you could make it up to me, and I take their hand. Well, I am the one, the only Gil Treble. You sure you haven't heard of me?
I'm gonna roll history.
Yeah.
What would I need to beat to be able to see if Bonblock's heard of him?
I'll tell you. Just roll.
I'm rolling. That's a 22.
Oh yeah, you've seen this guy's wanted posters plastered everywhere. Especially if you've been to the Dreamworkers. Yeah. You know who this guy is. He's wanted for kidnapping, for escaping jail at least 5, 6, 7 times. See, I said kidnapping. Oh, grand larceny, impersonation of an officer. And you did hear along the grapevine that he also infiltrated Dodo Studios. For what reason? Nobody really knows.
Oh, Bonblock's this guy's eyes, they just light up because he seems very excited, and he's like, oh, pleased to meet you. It's very nice to finally get to meet somebody who actually understands the line of work. I've admired your heist for a while. You're very talented.
Oh, thank you. It's nice to finally meet someone who actually knows. Like, you don't know the people I run into.
Bonblock nods, and actually, because he's told you his name, why don't you roll history?
Oh, that's a good thing. I think, yes, I do. The +5. That's a 22.
Well, that would actually have been a pretty high check because he's not totally well known, but with a 22, you definitely do recognize the name. This guy is not really wanted so much by public officers as he is by certain people with vendettas, because he's rather known for using magic on people. And it's weird, because whenever he does, they usually end up fine, but they always end up really mad at him for some reason.
Interesting.
And
I
here's a
think
fun
I
fact.
recognize you.
Here's a fun fact. No one can ever tell you what his magic was, because no one can ever really quite explain what happened.
Hmm. That's very interesting.
And
So, you're obviously new here. What you come here for?
well, we were looking to see if we could find anything that could teach us something about breaking and entering. You see, we're looking at a higher profile job in the future. Or not really a job, just another round of the game, but it's going to be a bit more challenging than usual. You see, we've never broken into a place before, so we were hoping we could find some sort of book that would teach us how to do it. But so far, we've had absolutely no luck. This place is an absolute maze, he says, even though it is, again, just one back alley.
Oh, you'd be surprised how maze-like it can get. There are a lot of mages down here.
Yeah.
But, I think I have the very book you're looking for.
Oh? And he tilts
Mm-hmm.
his head. And I should note, this guy, he has a reputation, but looking at him, you have no idea he placed it. Because, again, he looks like a kid's toy.
I mean, kids' toys can be very scary. I once met this, doll. He had this crazy smile on his face and a knife.
Dear, that sounds like an unpleasant way to make friends.
He wasn't a very pleasant person. I wouldn't call us friends.
Oh, that makes more
Anyways,
sense.
about the book. It's called The Villain's Handbook. Ever heard of it?
There's a book about that? I've never. Wait, we've never heard of it. We've just been going off Clara's rules. We didn't know there was actually a handbook.
Clara?
Yes. Uh, oh, right. You wouldn't know her. Oh. And roll insight.
Oh, that's gonna go so well. D20 minus 2. 11. That's not too bad.
Again, this guy's DC for reading him is really low. You only had to roll a 10 for this. He just kind of has, like, a distant, kind of sad, kind of freaked out look on his face for a second. And then he shakes his head really fast and he's back to being really smiley. And he says, "Oh, Clara taught us how to be a bad guy. She was really good at the game. We aren't as great at making up the rules, but we're very good at following them. So we've just been following her rules as best we can remember, but she never covered breaking and entering, and she never said anything about a book."
Well, it sounds like she wasn't very good as a villain, because all good villains know about the villain's handbook.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
because she was
I mean,
never the villain in the game. She was always the good guy. I was the bad guy because everyone needs one.
oh, so it was your nemesis. Okay. I get you. I get you. It's okay. Not everyone grows up with Never mind. Let me get that book for you. I can. Oh dear. He reaches into his pocket, and let's see what the roll will be.
I think Gil is the character who I've heard have the most hammer space fumbles out of anyone.
So, what he pulls out of his pocket is a self-destruct button with hanging frayed wires. He looks at it for a moment and says, "So that's where I put that," and then puts it back in his pocket and just holds up a finger. Okay, hold on. Ah, here we are. And he pulls out a rather old, tattered book, which clearly says The Villain's Handbook on the cover.
Bodlock applauds this show of hammer space usage because he's actually not done that very often, so he thinks it's very impressive when anyone else does.
Gil gives him a raised eyebrow before just kind of shaking it off like obviously this guy is very new.
He's actually probably older than you are, Gil, but that's neither here nor there.
Oh, I don't know that.
What he can remember is older than you are, let's put it that way. Mentally, that might be another question.
I mean, he seems to be written very young, so...
He's written very young, but he's been around for a long time.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. Breaking and entering. And he opens the book and starts thumbing through it.
Bonlock actually puts his hand, mitten, sweater paws things up and says, Wait. We can't just ask for your help without offering something in return. Is there something that you came here for? Maybe we could help you find it. We're very good at finding things.
Well, that... That's exactly why I'm doing this now. You bowled me over. You are going to help me. There's... You can't say no to that.
Oh, we weren't intending to.
No, let's see here. Continues to flip through the book. Do you have a map of the place?
He tilts his head and he thinks very, very hard. And he bites his lip. And then he opens up. And then he, claps his sweater mittens together, opens up the bag that's sort of belted onto his waist, and rummages through it for a couple minutes. I'm going to roll hammer space. That's an 8.
Yep.
And he pulls out a very old, kind of outdated map of Dodo Studios.
Oh, I see. Okay. You know, that is very old, and they've definitely updated a lot of the security by now after I broke in.
Von Block nods and says, Yes, our Aerie, she told us about that, but, well, she didn't have another map on hand, so we've been working with what we have.
How much gold you got?
Good fucking question. I actually never rolled gold for this guy. Hang on, let me check.
Gil about to sell the happy years of Dodo Studios.
Bonlock looks through another of the pockets inside this thing, which looks like it should only have one pocket, but actually has 800 pockets on the inside. It is a bag of many pockets, because it is his hammer space, and...
I mean, this is Toonkind we're talking about.
Yes.
As far as Gil is concerned, that's a bag with infinite space.
Yeah. And he pulls out 10 gold.
Oh, I guess I could sell you a more updated map for that much. And I'm gonna roll hammer space. Yep. And he pulls out a notebook and tears off a sheet of paper with a very, very carefully drawn map on it.
Bondlock gives him a very bright smile and offers him the gold.
And the exchange is made.
The updated map is handily taped over the outdated map in the pamphlet and then stashed away in the bag. And I'm gonna ask you to roll perception again.
Oh, yay. Nat 20!
Well, Well, with a nat 20, you definitely hear there's a bit of a commotion at the end of this back alley marketway.
I'm gonna
And
turn and then grab my new friend and start pulling my new friend to the edge of the alleyway as I'm trying to see what's going on, because second rule of the villain's handbook, if you're not scheming something, it's best to stay out of the way and in the shadows.
yeah, see, the thing about back alley market is it's not actually all that legal. You're not supposed to be selling rogues wear or illegally bought goods. So this place kind of moves around a lot, and because it moves around a lot, it sometimes gets found by the police. And there are two upstanding officers of the law at the end of the alley who are getting ready to case the place.
Of
And
course.
uh Gil, are you trying to hide it all?
Yep, but unfortunately, I have my armor on, so that's a disadvantage. Stealth is a +2.
That's a 22. Good roll.
+2.
That's
That's
a
a 19.
19.
That's still a good roll at disadvantage.
Yeah, although you did mention you were trying to get to the edge of the alleyway. So I think it's a near miss. It's a near miss. They do see you. Maybe they like see the end of your tail poking around a corner as you go and duck behind one of the stalls or something. You're very stealthy. They don't quite know who it is, but one of them uh they start approaching where you and Von Lock are hiding.
Okay. So, to the next stall. We're gonna move to the next stall, okay?
I'm gonna ask you to roll insight. That's a 3. You don't notice anything. You just notice that his expression looks kind of distracted, and he's looking at the cops, and he's reaching into his bag again. And I'm gonna roll hammer space.
Hey, what are you doing?
That's a 10. He pulls out a silver wand shaped like a sewing needle, and in a in a much more serious voice than you've heard him use so far, he says, "Stay behind us. This should only take a moment." And he takes a step forward. He points the wand at one of the police officers, and a bright red thread laces itself through the end of the wand. And the police officer has time to say something along the lines of, "Hey, wait, what are you?" And then he's going to have to make an intelligence save. That is. Where did I put his stats? He has a 0 on intelligence. This one's pretty high. That's a 4. He does not make
Yeah.
it. So you don't see what happens next. All you see is that your new friend throws his wand at the police officer. It pierces through the guy neat little point first, hits the other officer, rebounds back to Bondlock's hand, and the ragdoll, he pulls the string taut, then grabs your hand, casts Expeditious Retreat on both of you, and now you're running.
Okay, this. Okay.
Sorry, we don't know how long that will last. That's not our strongest thread.
What are you talking about?
Usually, they don't manage to undo themselves for a good while, but we don't know how long that particular usage will last. Arya did say that we should probably get better thread at some point. That was another thing we were in the market for, but that's neither here nor there. We can probably find some later. Anyway, let's go.
Okay. Guess he's running.
You guys are running, and I'm gonna need you to make me a dexterity save because this guy's way of travel is very rubber hose.
That's a
Like,
+2.
if you've seen that one, that's a 7, my dude.
Yep, that's a 7. So,
I should probably also roll dex. That's, I think.
yeah, considering you're pulling him along, and he's rolled a 7, so he probably stepped on his tail, and then started tumbling around, and he's going to run into you.
Yeah, I'm gonna roll acrobatics actually, just specifically for the way that he's doing this. That's a 23. So, this guy, who does not appear to have bones of any certain function, is pulling you along fairly well. And he tugs you into an abandoned looking shop, then looks around, spies the window, nods, and says, "Alright, take a pose." And casts another spell on you, because this guy is a wizard. He's got spell slots.
Oh, he's a wizard! He's a wizard, Harry!
He's a level 5 wizard, level 2 barbarian.
Oh my
god! And he is going to cast Alter Self on himself and then on you. And I'm going to ask you something. What kind of toy would Gil be if Gil was a toy?
So, I imagine he'd be, That's a good question. You know what? Suddenly he has symbols in his hands. The wind-up monkey with the symbols.
Alright, you are now a wind-up symbol monkey, and Bondlock taps the point of his needle against the stitched together broken heart that is emblazoned on the middle of his shirt, and all of the monochrome immediately sucks back into it, leaving him with a really rather nice autumnal color palette. And he, for lack of a better word, takes a pose by ragdolling in the window. So it looks, and casting minor illusion, so it looks like you two are just a pair of toys in a shop window.
Should I roll performance?
Yeah.
The only skill I don't have.
I should also roll performance.
I could roll deception, but let's roll performance for fun.
For funsies.
10.
Okay. You're kind of twitching a bit. Like, it's very hard to hold still when you've just been suddenly told to hold still.
And the fact that I'm a toy is kind of bothering me.
And I got an 18. Bondlock is actually very experienced with this. He works in theater. So you guys have this kind of Andy's coming moment where you are just both posed as toys in a shop window as not the two police officers who were chasing you or who did try to get you walk by the window, but a very confused looking police officer who you haven't actually ever seen before. Like, I don't know if Gil has, memorized a few faces on the police force, but you figure this guy must be new because he looks very, very confused.
I am going to roll an intelligence check.
Oh boy.
Because I know everyone on the police force. 13.
That's a 13.
Yeah, maybe they hired a new guy while I was, just hanging out in the vents.
Maybe. I figure whatever bullshit that this guy just pulled, it must have backlashed onto this newbie because there's a little bit of that red string wound around their wrists. And
Hmm.
as they walk out of view, Bondlock mutters something that sounds suspiciously like a curse under his breath and pulls a pair of scissors out of his pocket and cuts the string that's still attached to his wand. And then slides his wand back into his bag. The magic on both of you is dispelled. You are back to being yourself and not a toy.
Ugh.
Sorry about that. The last time that the police caught us, well, it didn't end very well, and Eri was not pleased with us, and we would really prefer not to go back to the attic. Are you alright?
The Yes, I'm fine. And he just kind of smooths his hair and straightens his jacket.
I'm
I'm gonna
really
roll
happy.
deception.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, I'm rolling deception.
Should
15.
I roll contesting insight?
I mean, if Bondlock cares enough to try to figure out if this guy is lying about being fine or not.
You'd be surprised by how much Bondlock cares about people.
Oh,
Let's
go
see.
ahead.
D20 minus 1. He's not very smart. That's a 10.
Oh, no, yeah, he's definitely well put together. This is definitely grade A villain material right here.
Bondlock kind of picks himself up, and he doesn't. With a 10, I'm gonna say he doesn't quite trust that you're not lying, but he also. Like, this guy is not very socially experienced, but he also
Mhm.
knows from certain friends of his that it's kind of rude to just ask if somebody is lying to you when they say that they're fine if you don't know them super well. So he's not gonna pry. He's just like, we're sorry. We didn't mean to make any sort of uncomfortable movements with the disguise thing. It's just the one that works most easily for us. But we
Hmm.
understand that for some people, it's he like waggles a sleeve mitten back and forth and tries to find the word for a second, and then says, "Dodgy territory."
Uh, it just surprised me, that's all.
Bondlock nods. That's a very understandable thing.
So, that newbie will probably come around again, so we should probably get out of here and move somewhere else before actually looking at this. And he's still holding the book in his hand, and he just puts it back into his pocket.
Uh, Bondlock nods and thinks for a moment, and then claps his mittens together and says, "Oh, we could go to the toy box. That's where I've been staying.
The toy box?
The local theatre was very nice to let me stay there." Um, and he offers you a hand to lead you.
Alright, just hold on a moment. And let's see. He's going to roll Hammer Space
Mm-hmm.
for his Peck and Disguise kit. Yep. And he's going to looks at his disguise kit, and then he pulls out a let's see. He pulls out a detective disguise
Oh my god. Ah,
and
bless you, Gil.
puts it on and puts the pipe in his mouth and goes, "Now let's." And he winks, "Solve crime."
Again, Bondluck applauds. He thinks this is very nice. He thinks you're very good at playing the game. Um, And do you want to try and talk to this stranger who's kind of accidentally abducted you as he leads you across town?
Sure, now that I'm in my detective disguise, and let me roll actual disguise kit. So, oh yes, it's a very good disguise.
Very convincing. Honestly,
Oh yes.
because of the fact that Bondlock also changed his outfit a little bit with a bit of magic, he just kept the alter self on and then modified what it was doing. Uh, it looks a bit like the trope in detective movies where you have like the serious hard-boiled detective and then the like the plucky sidekick with who's usually a little girl because he is wearing a dress
Yep, works.
and he's just kind of skipping along and it's kind of ruined by the fact that he's a couple inches taller than you are. Um but yeah, you can feel free to talk to this guy.
So, what are you going to do when you get in there?
Oh, well, our Airy, she said that we should try to do something that has a little bit more challenge than usual because, well, we've just been getting people on the streets and that's very easy. And usually the game goes smoothly, but the last couple times, well, it hasn't ended very well because you've seen how on edge people are lately. Usually it ends with me getting my arm ripped off. But that's fine because I can usually put it back. But last time somebody nearly ran me through, and well, that would just be bad now, wouldn't it? Um,
Yes.
and he just smiles and he says, "So, we decided we were going to move our usual game indoors. And we decided, well, if we're going to be having to learn to break into places, we might as well find some place that's worth breaking into and find people who are suitably heroic for us to target."
Well, I see why you chose them.
And he nods and looks very pleased with himself because he has two specific targets in mind. He's not going to tell them to you because that would ruin the surprise, but
Of course. Of course. No, 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 you don't reveal everything about your plan. You have to reveal everything about your plan after you set it in motion, of course.
obviously.
um. Hmm. So, Dodo Studios, after I broke into it, they upped the security again. So it's going to be rather challenging to get in there for you.
Mondlock nods and says, "Yes, it is a bit of a, well, and he actually looks a bit hesitant and he says, "We're not quite sure why Aerie suggested something so dramatic for our first attempt, but, well, she always knows best."
Hmm. Who is this, Airy?
Oh, she's the director, the one behind the curtains. She teaches everyone in Wits End how to do what they do, myself included.
Hmm.
She's almost as good at playing the game as Clara was, but she is a little disinclined to playing herself, which makes her a bit boring. But that's fine, because she gave me my wand.
Hmm.
And he actually tilts his head and he's going to ask you a question. He asks, "What about you? I know that you've got several warrants out, but what sort of things do you usually do on when you get to play?"
Well, my whole thing is scaring them out of their wits. It's fun to watch them run and scream.
Oh, and he doesn't really seem to have another response to that. He just kind of nods. Like, scaring people's not really his thing, but he knows people who like scaring people, so yeah, that's valid. There are
Although
multiple ways to be a villain.
honestly, that's just part of it. Let's see. I could tell you what I did in Dodo Studios since it's already over. Let's see. Right. I took their music and replaced it with my own. I took the button for the controls of the lights. And then I walked around just kind of setting things up for the people I knew were going to come after me. I'm surprised they didn't go to the sets, though. Something so interesting I set up there, and then they never went to it.
Bonblock is grinning at you because you sound like you're somebody who knows how to have fun. And he says as much. He says that you sound like a very fun person who's very good at playing the game.
Oh, yes, of course. I've been doing it for, how many years now? 16? Yeah, it's been a long time.
Oh, we've been doing it for. And he counts on fingers that he doesn't have and mutters something about, let's see, it was 8 with Clara, and then subtract 30 for being in the attic because we were asleep, and then. Right.
As soon as Gil heard 30, his eyes kind of, grew wide, wait, what?
You are welcome to ask about it if you'd like.
I'm gonna wait until they finish.
And he counts off on fingers he doesn't have and then nods and said, we've been being the bad guy for about whatever 8 plus 16 is.
Gil, does some math in his head.
But we've only been doing it on our own for about 16 years. We did it for Clara before, and that was very nice, but it was mostly in one place and not very interesting because she always controlled the story.
Wow, 24 years. I didn't think you were older than me.
And he kind of laughs and says, well, technically, we're not. You see, well, actually, we don't know how old you are, so we can't actually say whether or not we are or aren't. But, well, age is kind of weird.
I mean, Toons. Am I right?
He nods and is like, I've only really been a proper person for about 16 years. The rest was just, well, prologue.
Oh, I get that. Prologue.
And he has led you. You guys have arrived at your destination. You've reached an old, stage theater, and he leads you around back and knocks the ever so classic secret knock, shave and a haircut on the back door,
Mm-hmm.
and it swings open, seemingly with no one else inside, and he looks around and is like, oh, doesn't look like anyone's here yet. Well, that just means that we won't be interrupted. And he leads you inside and through the backstage of the theater. Is there anything in particular you want to look at about this place before he takes you to where he's been staying?
I mean, I kind of want to look around in general and see what I can see.
Sure, go ahead.
7.
That's a 7. You know what? I'll give you advantage because you're not rushing anymore, and you should probably have reason to be suspicious of this place because you are just being dragged here by.
7.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Wow. Gil
Needs
non-perception.
glasses.
You
Gil needs
too.
glasses.
Well,
I got something in my eye.
it is a bit dark in here and kind of dusty. But as you look around with a 7, I don't know how much time Gil spends in the back stages of theaters, but he figures this is probably, the normal trappings. There's some stuff for costumes, some stuff for makeup, there's some, toony gag stuff set up, and
Mhm.
like he can't figure whether or not people actually use this place because it's really dusty, but that might also just be the nobody's here right now toon dust. You're not
Mhm.
sure. Um and do you have any reaction to this sort of location? It is kind of spooky looking in a way.
Gil sneezes at the dust. That's what that was.
Bless you.
Mm. Thank you. Wow,
Um
this place is pretty awesome.
Thank you. We've been staying here at the permission of one of Aries' old friends. Um he's letting us stay in the toy box, which is and he's like looking between like three doors, and I'm going to roll a d3 to see if he gets it right. That's a 2. It was the one in the middle. He gets it right, and he opens the door to the prop storage room. And congratulations, you have found where this guy is currently staying. Because he walks in, turns on a little lamp, sits down on a box, and says, "Welcome to where we've been staying for the last few weeks."
Cozy. Gil walks in and uses his tail to close the door.
Probably smart. Bondluck is surprisingly capable, but not very good at remembering to do things like close doors behind him or how to social interact. He's just kind of a mess.
So, being the person that Gil is going to go over and sit down very close to Bondlock and then try to pull out the book again. Here. Let's see. Now where was I? Opens the book and starts flipping through it. There are a lot of diagrams and there's a lot of words.
Okay, since you're sitting so close, I'm not going to make you roll for this. You can see it. Bondlock's pupils are already spiral shaped, and I should note that something interesting with the color palette that he still has, because he hasn't turned his monochrome colors back on, but with the color palette he still has, they're blue. They're already spirals. They are starting to spin. He's confused.
Gil looks. I gotta roll insight because Gil is. Gil.
That's a -1.
Gil has no idea and just keeps flipping pages. Here's the breaking and entering section. So you see, and he starts doing a lot of technical jargon, which for legal reasons I will not share here.
Oh, goodness. I'm gonna roll intelligence for Bondlock to see if he can actually figure that out.
Yeah, roll intelligence safe.
Oh, a save? A save is different. Hang
Well,
on.
I think it would be a save
Yeah, a
because
save.
his eyes were already swirling.
Okay, a save is actually the same. I lied. So it's d20 plus 2. There we go. That's a 10. Okay, so this guy's eyes were already spinning, and now you don't even have to roll insight. He's starting to look really dizzy.
And you see, what you need to do is bond luck. Are you okay?
Uh, he does that thing where, like, you shake your head and there's the sound of something rattling as you do so. And it's just like, we're not used to such complicated rules. Do you think you could go a bit slower?
Hmm. And Gil snaps the book shut, and
Sorry.
he
Bondlock actually
taps.
looks very apologetic as he does that, as Gil shuts the book because he doesn't mean to be so slow on the uptake. He's trying. He
He,
looks he looks very sorry.
Gil taps the side of his nose and says, you know, all you need is the map and, the wherewithal to get away. When it comes down to it, you know.
Uh, I'm roll insight for me. I'm trying to figure out how much I can say about. Okay, again, Bondluck's not hard to read. He wears everything front and center. For fuck's sake, he has his heart on the middle of his shirt.
I mean, Gil knows a guy with a heart, right in the middle of his chest. But, I don't know. Bob's a little harder to read.
Yeah, maybe it's because of the saturation. You know, pink is much less saturated than bright fucking red. Um, which, honestly, good villain design, but why are you painting a target on your chest, dude? Um,
Because villains always paint the target on their chest. The heroes are supposed to come after the villains, duh.
exactly. See, you know how to play the game better than the DM does. Anyway, uh, he's actually listening very closely. Like, as Gil says this, Bondlock is kind of doing that thing where you like sit crisscross applesauce with your hands in your lap and you look very focused. Like,
Mhm.
he messed up understanding from the book. He's going to try and figure it out from what Gil is saying. So help him.
The only other thing you need to know is how to break the locks. You're not going to be able to get through the front gate anymore. Unless you cast something that doesn't require them to hear you.
Hmm. Bondlock thinks for a minute and, like, he reaches into his hammer space. Hang on. He reaches into his hammer space and he pulls out like a notebook and again it's a bright red heart-shaped notebook and he like flips through it, which he has some trouble because sweater hands. um which, by the way, you have not seen his actual hands this whole time, so it's kind of a mystery whether there actually are hands under there, because they do express like normal hands, they just don't have fingers.
Yeah, Gil's very interested about that, but he's not going to ask. Rather, he'll probably write it down in his notebook later and then do a few sketches of what he remembers.
Um, Longlock's like kind of flipping through his notebook, and he's like looking at spells and thinking, and sort of thinking out loud, and is like, "Well, none of our spells really require verbal spoken components, but we don't really have anything. Maybe sleep would work, but we would have to burn a spell slot. And oh, with the targets, that might not be a good idea. They're both, well, one of them's a very good fighter. I don't know about the other. Hmm. Of course, I do have to leave room for. Hmm.
No, 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 no. What I mean is to get into the place, even.
Yeah, he's like
The,
trying
the
to look.
guards, the guards at the front. Charm person's not going to work anymore.
Yeah, he's like looking through his notebook, trying to find something that would let him pass the guards. But actually, when you mention charm person, he startles and actually looks a little bit upset and says, "Oh, we would never use that one anyway." Goodness
Why?
gracious. Well, it's it's underhanded in a way that's just beyond even being the bad guy. You don't mess with someone's feelings like that. That's just gross.
Gil blinks and he looks confused, very confused. Why would you care about someone who has nothing to do with you?
Well, why wouldn't I? everyone's got a part in the story. And he's actually, like, that wasn't me flubbing up. He's actually dropped the use of we hour. And he looks a lot more serious than you've seen him since, he did whatever the hell that was in the alleyway. He's like, everyone's got a part in the story. I wouldn't want to interrupt them. And I, a bad guy's job is, of course, to cause chaos and cause conflict so the story can be moved forward, but, well, we don't we don't aim to hurt people or upset beyond beyond what can be repaired. And he's actually fiddling with one of his stitches now and curses a little as one of them comes loose and one of his arms starts to fall off a little bit. But yeah, the minute you mentioned using Charm Person, he looked very uncomfortable.
Funny. Someone else had somewhat of a similar reaction. He's thinking very hard right now.
I'm gonna say, just like as a background gag, while Gil is thinking very hard, Bon Block's arm falls off and he mutters a curse to himself and says, we'll be right back. We gotta go get some needles. And he leaves the room real fast.
Mm-hmm. Gil's not even really paying attention to him. It's just thinking.
That is valid.
Because this is the second time someone showed absolute discomfort, and this time it wasn't even a good guy, and so now Gil's just kind of, should I stop using Charm Person? Is just him muttering that to himself.
While he's doing his, deep soul-searching thoughts, because apparently this random ragdoll has given him a bit of an epiphany that, hey, using spells that make people low-key fall in love with you is kind of gross. Von Block comes back in with like a miniature sewing kit that's shaped like a strawberry, and he opens it up and starts stitching his arm back on.
He's even started to, like, grind his sharp teeth together.
I'm gonna roll insight. If that's okay?
Yes, roll insight.
That's a 12. God damn it.
Unfortunately, his, you don't really know what's brought this on, but he seems concentrating really hard on it.
How would... Now I gotta figure out how this guy would actually react to that. Because, like I said, he cares about people a surprising amount. And also his first instinct when somebody is upset is to apologize. So he's just like, sorry, we didn't mean to have such a vehement reaction. We don't mean to criticize any of your personal methods, of course. You've obviously been more successful at this than we have. And he pulls at the needle he's using to stitch his arm back on and pulls the stitches tight.
Yeah. He just kind of shakes himself and he's immediately back. Oh, wait, actually, let me see if I can do a deception again. Yep, he's immediately back to that, I'm having fun, I'm smiling sort of deal, and it's like nothing was ever wrong.
Very devil may care, if you will.
Oh, yes. Anyways, it's not a big deal. people's methods are different in the business.
Bondlock
It's just the
nods.
way it is.
Bondlock nods and says, "Well, we could use sleep to get past the guards, but, well, considering who our targets are, we do want to try and reserve our spell slots, so perhaps it would be better if we tried to get in through an entrance that isn't as guarded." And he's like
I
tilting
don't.
his head, looking for advice because he's never broken and entered before.
Okay, so security is probably going to be about max. There isn't an entrance that they will not be guarding, because, if you haven't noticed, and I'm sorry, I'm taking on a little bit of your target's accent while trying to think about this. If you haven't noticed, I have an inkling who you're after, and if you hadn't noticed, everyone seems to want to kill the guy.
Oh, we don't want to kill him.
Oh, no, 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 it's... What I mean is security's really high, because apparently there's been a lot of assassins sneaking in.
Oh, yes, we did read about that. That's just, being a bad guy is one thing, but that's just being rude. And he just,
I can't really look a man in the face who would hire an assassin to go confront someone.
exactly, just do your own dirty work, for crying out loud.
Exactly. It's bad form.
More than bad form, it's a bad financial decision. Uh, and he thinks a bit and then realizes, oh, well, I don't think I could get myself hired in that short of amount of time, but maybe I could sneak myself in as a bit of assistance, seeing as, well, I do build sets for a living.
That could work. That could work. They do. They probably do extensive checks, but
Well,
I
they
don't.
wouldn't be checking for my real name.
Oh yes, of course. You just gotta make sure to not let your intentions known.
And he kind of laughs, and I'm going to roll something real fast. That's an 8. Um, So whatever he was doing, it doesn't work. But he just kind of laughs, and um, you can see that there's a bit. What he was trying to do was hide his feelings. You can see that there's a bit of bitterness in this guy's usually very happy, cheerful expression as he says, "Well, trust us. If there's one thing we're good at, it's disappearing."
Now, invisibility might get you through, but I. I don't know if that's been checked for yet.
And he laughs and says, "Oh, we meant it a different way. We don't actually have that spell."
Hmm.
Hmm.
You could try to dig under the fence.
Oh, well, we could do that, but wouldn't we be running the risk of someone seeing us? After all, digging takes time, and people can see you doing things.
Right, right. You don't have invisibility, right?
I love that these two are just bouncing off ideas now. It's very
I
good.
mean, what else do you do when studying the villain's handbook doesn't work?
Um, so Monluk has his notebook out again, and he walks over to what looks like a prop vanity and starts sticking notes up with a bit of sticky tape as he tries to sort of thought cloud word post-it note. You know the Pepe Sylvia meme, it's the Pepe Sylvia meme.
Yeah.
A plan on how to do this, and he's actually using like bright red glowing thread that he just kind of summons from nowhere to do this. And he's kind of like thinking, and occasionally he actually will stop and ask Gil's advice on something because, hey, this is somebody who he now considers a friend who is actually pretty good at this. So maybe he can help.
hmm And Gil will actually give him some advice. What do I roll?
I
Hmm.
have no idea. Maybe, let's see. Deception is kind of the one that's most associated with like roguery and whatnot, aside from maybe sleight of hand. So maybe your choice of sleight of hand, stealth, or deception.
I'm gonna do deception because that's the highest.
That's valid.
Oh yeah.
Okay. With a 24, you guys actually managed to get a really actually quite good, if a bit cartoonishly convoluted, plan slapped together.
I mean, they're both cartoon villains. Let's be real here.
Yeah, these are
Cartoonishly convoluted is their game.
exactly. And I mean, what's the point of being the villain in the game if you don't have a little bit of fun yourself? Sure, there's the fun for the heroes when they get to beat you up after they've, found you and thwarted your plot, but I mean, making the plot is the villain's time to have fun.
Oh yes. And you always, always, always have to have a getaway plan.
Oh, we have one of those, actually. And he rummages through his hammer space again.
hmm
No, not d20 plus 10, d10. 7, okay, he pulls it out. He pulls out a little necklace shaped like a key that has a um, bright pink rose where like the circle part at the top of your usual skeleton key would be.
hmm
Um, and he says, Ari gave us this. It's the gate key back to Wit's End. Whenever we're done with it, as long as we've got everything we think we can get back, which we're really hoping we don't lose an arm again because that would be the 6th time this month, but when we do need to get away, we just put this in any available lock. We do have a padlock available if necessary, but we usually just use a door, and this will take us back to Wit's End.
Neat. Ah, magic.
It's really useful, isn't it?
Ah, yes. It is really useful. But, I have someone else to thank for mine.
Oh? And he tilts his head, and he actually looks very curious because this is new. He's never heard of somebody getting their magic from someone else. I mean, sure, he got his wand from someone else, and that does a very specific type of magic, but getting all of it from someone else, that's very interesting.
Oh, yes, my best friend, Psychopomp.
I'm
And,
going.
and he kind of looks around to see if Psychopomp will appear.
Does Psychopomp appear?
Roll perception.
Okay. I was gonna roll history to see if Bondlock knows who that was, but
I mean, you can roll history too, but the DC is really high for that.
yeah. So I'm gonna do that. That's a 4 on history. He does not know who Psychopomp is.
Nope.
And d20 plus 2 again. A 4 on perception! He sees nothing! To be fair, it's very dark in this prop storage room. It's kind of just lit by the mirror lights on the prop vanity, so it's
Hmm.
very dark in here. You know,
I wonder where he's gone.
you
I
know.
guess he's not with me at the moment.
What's he like?
Oh, it might be because we're inside. He wasn't invited in. That makes sense. That makes sense.
Oh, well, we would love to offer an invitation, but it isn't our place.
Yeah,
And
that's fair.
Onlog actually looks very sad because he was excited because he likes meeting people's friends.
But yeah, Psychopump's my best friend. We've been friends for a very long time.
What's he like?
Oh, he's kind of see-through. And he likes scaring people.
Onlog giggles and nods and says, "Mutual interests, then. That's a good way
Oh,
to
yeah.
start a friendship."
Oh, in fact, he is the one who introduced me to that.
Onlog grins and he nods. And he steps back from his word cloud, puts a mittened hand over his mouth, thinking, and says, "Well, I do believe that's everything in order. Now I just have to make sure that I know how not to get killed."
Oh, that's very important.
Yeah, he nods and kind of laughs and says, "It's funny. The entire rest of me can't be hurt, but there is one specific part of me that, if it gets damaged," and he does the sort of finger across the throat gesture.
I'm gonna do insight.
That's a 15.
Okay. I think he's picking up what you're laying down.
Yeah.
He nods like, ah, yes, yes, that makes sense.
I could leave it here, I suppose, but that would make my magic weaker, and then. Ugh, it's really annoying. But that's probably a plan for another day. I'm really sorry I accidentally kidnapped you from the market.
Shrugs. Ah, it's better than the last time I got kidnapped.
You've been kidnapped multiple times?
Never unwillingly.
Bonlock kind of does that thing where it's like you put the finger up and you have your mouth open to say something, and it's just like, wait, what? Doesn't that go against the rules of how kidnap? I wouldn't know. Kidnapping's not our area. Uh,
Well, you see, at any moment, I could have left. So,
oh, so they thought they had kidnapped you, but you were fully capable of escaping at any time.
yes.
Do I have to insight to see if that's a lie?
Yes. Go ahead.
Oh, God. That's a 7. He fully believes you. This guy's kind of a naive dork. He just kind of assumes that you are an expert villain by this point and just nods understandingly, like, yes, obviously, this person who is a very experienced villain would know how to get out of any situation.
Ah, I do have to actually go back there, but
Uh, Bondlock, brightens up a bit and holds up, again, not a finger, just sort of a sweater mitten that's suggesting the shape of a finger, reaches into his bag again and pulls out a compass and says, "Here, we got this from a friend of ours, and he said that this always points to where the back alley market is going to be popping up next. So when it does eventually get put back together after, the calamity that ensued, you'll be
mhm.
able to find your way."
Oh, thank you. And he gratefully accepts it and carefully puts it into his hammer space.
Of course. You've helped me so much. I don't think it would be very fair if I didn't help you.
Well, of course, you did promise to help me, so.
Yes. And he, like, nods because, yeah, he did that. He's not gonna go back on a promise. That would be wrong. And, you know, he's the bad guy, but he's not a jerk.
Yeah, he sounds very lawful evil.
He's
Sticks sticks to his morals.
he's somewhere between lawful evil and chaotic neutral. It's sort of like lawful chaotic. He has rules. Nobody else knows what they fucking are.
That's okay, that's still lawful evil. They're his rules, he follows them strictly. Just because nobody knows what they are doesn't make him not lawful.
Yeah,
Just
guess I have to
because
say one
his
thing over.
rules follow him to being chaotic,
Yeah,
it's still lawful because he holds stringently to his rules.
exactly. Um, and Bondlock thinks for a minute and then says, "Wait, I have an idea." And then he pulls out his notebook again, flips to one of the many pink paper heart-shaped pages, and scribbles down a mailing address for Bookend Theater, Wits End, Uncanny Valley.
Mhm.
Prop storage, Valentine. And he hands it to you and says, "If you ever want to get back in contact, I love having friends who can write to me, so you could write to me at this address if you like."
Oh, I'd love to. I'm afraid I don't have an address, but hmm, hmm,
You can just use bottle mail. That always gets there.
that's fair. Yeah. I don't know any trustworthy pigeons, unfortunately.
Pigeons.
Yeah, they always sell me out.
Oh, that's because you're using pigeons. Pigeons are untrustworthy. You should try doves. They're very helpful. Or ducks.
Mm.
Not not domesticated ducks, mind you. Those ones are just people. But if you actually ask like a normal, real kind-ish duck, they're very helpful with carrying mail.
I'll try that one time. And he puts the piece of heart-shaped paper in his pocket. So let's see, compass.
Yeah, sorry, I give people things.
I already have a lot of things in his cyberspace. There's so many.
You have so much to keep track of.
Heart shape piece of paper with an address on it. Okay.
And is there anything else you would like to get out of this FPS? Or do you think we just want to hang it with these two exchanging contact information? Because
I think,
friendship, yay!
yeah, I think frankly this is where it should probably end because after that, Gil's probably going to pull the hat from his head, like, see ya, and walk out.
That's valid. Yeah. Alright. Well, that was a blast. I'm gonna stop recording now. Everyone say goodbye, listeners. Goodbye, listeners!
Goodbye.